Welcome in, heathens. Come on in. Get in here. You know the huge. We're going to take these first few seconds. Well, maybe you don't know the huge. Welcome if this is your first time. It's just repeat offenders in chat so far, which is par for the course. But if you haven't already, grab some tools for yourself and make this moment good. Uh, Grab a beverage, grab some snacks, grab a weird friend, load the bong. You know what you need to do. I also recommend grabbing some tools like perhaps your natal chart or a tarot deck. Uh, yeah, but the moon button. Awesome. um, Perhaps light a candle, light some incense. You might grab your journal. You may have thoughts during this class, and you might also grab some art supplies. Because sometimes the stuff that comes up, it's easier to express it through color or sound or texture, where words fail us a little bit sometimes. Um, we'll see what the sunlight does today, also. I may or may not have enough lights on by the time the sun goes down. We'll find out. Um, as I have mentioned in chat, I don't know where chat is compared to what I'm pointing at, but if this is your first time here, throw a sun in the chat. If you are a repeat heathen, please throw a moon in the chat. Welcome in, and we will get started here in just a second. I also want to take a second to thank all of my lovely patrons who make these classes possible. These classes are free, not monetized here on YouTube or whatever platform we might be watching this on in the future. Thanks to their incredible support and or blame them if you are looking for someone to figure out why is this lady yelling on the internet, what is going on here. Big thank you to patrons. Folks who sign up for Patreon get extra stuff. Folks that sign up at the Venus level will get a workbook for this class. It's not up yet. It's still in production. Sorry, but it will be up very soon, I promise. It's almost done. The 2026 workbooks for the Sabbats have been heavily updated. We've been adding, the royal I've been adding a lot of astrology, more writing, expanding my thoughts on the Celtic tree calendar system, runic months, as well as all of our astrology and astronomy and science and history and culture and everything else that goes along with that. So, if you're a patron, say hi in the chat. Thank you so much for your support. You're amazing. Oh my God. Also, before we get going here, want to recognize, as always, as we always have before these classes, this class is being taught on unceded ancestral Duwamish territory. The Duwamish are the Native Americans who were here in Seattle before Seattle was Seattle and are still here. Check out the Duwamish tribe. They have a beautiful longhouse here in Seattle and hold all sorts of events all year long, classes and workshops. They're an amazing cultural resource. When I charged tickets for these classes, a percent was donated to a group called Real Rent Duwamish, which is a group of folks who voluntarily have gotten together to decide to pay rent to the Duwamish tribe, since our federal government can't seem to figure out how to recognize this tribe. And so until that happens, and also there is a petition out there where you can sign. There's, I think, close to 150,000 signatures on that petition at this point. You can voluntarily choose to pay some rent to the Duwamish, again, until the federal government figures it out. But I don't know if you guys have checked on the, it's bad scene. It's a bad scene out there, so A real rent Duwamish. Thanks to the Duwamish tribe for taking care of this land up till and including now of us white folks showing up here. Um, Yay, I'm here. Awesome. Yay, welcome, welcome. Excellent. Very cool. Thanks everybody for being here. Appreciate you so much. As I said before, I'll say it again. Grab your natal chart, grab a tarot deck, light a candle, light some incense, grab a snack, grab a weirdo friend, rip the bong, do what you need to do, make it good where you are, wherever it is that you're watching this. And also put this on in the background while you do some chores or cook dinner or breakfast or, whatever time it is in whatever part of the world you are. But welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm glad that you're here. A note about me. I'm a weirdo. I have what would probably be thought of as an eclectic background to my paganism, animism, heathenism, witchery, will working, weirding. I have utilized a variety of vocabulary through the eras and ages of my life to describe this thing that I do. Witchcraft, sure, that's a word we could use too, and it is deeply influenced by the traditions around the planet. I am self-taught, which means I get stuff wrong sometimes. My theories are missing parts sometimes. Always double check me, always reference me, just in case. And sometimes I'm right, but I misspeak, whatever. I'm just a human. And this whole class system that I've been teaching since 2015 on the Wheel of the Year is completely born out of my own spiritual practices and my own spiritual exploration, me trying to answer questions for myself. And these classes are one of the byproducts of that work. Also, these classes are intended to be places where recovering Christians and other folks that are sort of refugees from the variety of, Abrahamic faiths. Sorry, no offense to everybody, but sometimes it gets a little squirrely out there. Or other harmful belief systems that you've been subjected to. It's not just the Abrahamic faiths. People are, doing weird stuff out there. And, these classes are also intended to be a place where some healing might happen for you to reconnect to your native spirituality, whatever that is, which is often something that's beyond vocabulary. For folks who are thinking of themselves as practicing pagans or heathens, animists, whatever, if we're here, we're white-skinned, we're in the West, we're influenced by a lot of weird stuff, a lot of inaccurate stuff, a lot of appropriated stuff. And so these classes sometimes are an untangling of that. And ultimately, one of the things that I hope to achieve in these classes is a deeper sense of communion with all of the other humans that have ever been on Earth and are here now and are going to be here through this incredible tradition that humans have of celebrating stuff in really cool ways on purpose over and over again at the same times of year. Lots of us tend to do similar things at the same time of year, whether we are actually influenced by each other's cultures or not. And it's just one of the coolest things about the human experience. So that too is part of what I'm trying to do here. I am a she, her, but I don't really care. Gender is, whatever. During these classes, I will talk about the goddess and the god, and I will use lazy language like she or her or his or him. But really, when I'm talking about these entities or these archetypal urges or forces that exist in the universe, I'm talking about stuff that can be found in all humans at all times or during a variety of different times in our lifetime. These are energies that all of us have access to, all of us have the right to embody and work through and work in and with. So, if I get lazy in my language, don't take it to heart. Okay. I think that's enough of that. So let's get into what we're actually doing in this class. We are looking at the Sabbath of Litha, or summer solstice, or midsummer. This is a block print that I made a few years ago. Side note to the side note, I go off on tangents. Side note to the side note, making art connected to the Sabbats is one of the very best ways that you can express, again, the ineffable elements of the season and your subjective personal experiences as you move through time and space and hang out with different symbols and different gods and goddesses and stuff. In Litha season, at summer solstice in midsummer, we are at the peak of solar power, those of us here in the northern hemisphere, even though it does get hotter through the season. So this is a really powerful check-in point for us. And a question that I hope that you will ask yourself now and throughout this class and beyond this class over the next 6 weeks or so is, what is the light that I carry in this world? This is part of our reflection that we want to think about right now is where have I been since spring? In spring, we kick off a whole bunch of experimentation. We light a bunch of fires. We kick off a bunch of projects. In Litha, which is a name that we get from Old High German, Old English, Old Norse, we move out of that experimentation and testing ground of spring and into the commitment of some of these projects. And that commitment is really required of us in summer. So when we're here, whoop, like, wait, I pushed the wrong button. So when we are here, and we are hanging out in this season, we are focusing a lot of our witchy work on ideas like power, determination, confirmation, healing, nurturing, protection, and embodiment. Litha is where in our Wheel of the Year work, we accept the work of choosing which projects are going to get carried over from spring, which pursuits will receive our protection, our nurturing, and our care. We embrace our responsibility to this work because in choosing who and what is carried forward, we embrace our power and our determination in taking care of these projects and taking on the responsibility of this work because in choosing who and what is carried forward, we are also choosing which projects are getting sacrificed. And that idea of responsibility and sacrifice and selection, I guess, is something that's going to come up over and over again in this class. The goddess at this time of year is showing her death in life aspect, overseeing the ritual sacrifice and replacement of the Oak King with the Holly King. The Oak King has been ruling half of the year from winter solstice up to summer solstice, and now they battle and the Holly King takes over. And the goddess oversees this. She steps fully into her mother goddess form at this time of year as well. And again, that's sort of that insistence of the idea of protection and nurturing and care. Here is, our first place where we can have a moment to ponder gender and gender roles and things like that. Who gets to or who has to nurture or protect or care? Well, anyone of any gender that chooses or is obligated with the care and protection of a thing, a person, a project, an idea, a movement, whatever. So again, these are entities that we all have access to, and these are ideas that we all have access to. But in this process, the Holly King is reborn. The Holly King in many traditions is known as the Dark Twin, and the Holly King ushers in the waning half of the year. It's a pretty interesting power dynamic between the Oak King and the Holly King. The Oak King comes to power in winter solstice, arguably the beginning of the harshest time of the year, and the Oak King's rule gets easier and lighter as it goes along. But the Oak King is often depicted as an old man, an old person, a person filled with wisdom and tradition. The Holly King is depicted as young, bright, inexperienced, and full of willpower. Turgid, we might say, with willpower. And they oversee the half of the year that starts out arguably at its easiest point and gets more and more difficult and darker as time goes along. Those who rise to power or experience a peak of power now oversee the descent and the decline that always comes after the peak. And surely that has nothing to do with, politics or anything else that's going on in our country or the world right now. Surely not. But who are these two figures? Well, we will meet a few contenders throughout this class. The Holly King at this time of year kills the Oak King and takes his place. That killing is a type of competition. In some fables, it's a literal death. In other fables, it is a sacrificial wounding, a symbolic wounding, where, the Holly King maybe makes a nick, a little scratch on the Oak King, or the Oak King doesn't die, but he's lamed, or maimed in some way that sort of takes him out of the action. Either way, there is a type of competition between the two, and one is clearly the winner over the other, and the other, being the Oak King, takes a bow and heads off stage, goes backstage, relaxes, takes his boots off, chills out. He's had his 6 months, he's run the show for a while. Let the young guy do it for a minute. Let the inexperienced guy have at it and see what they can come up with. Now, in our modern pagan symbolism, and I guess this sort of threads back into ancient stuff as well, this is our last Sabbath season to overtly emphasize fertility until next spring, because that thrust, yang, extrovert, solar energy only wanes from this point forward to Yule. But on that note, this is also where the healing element comes in this list of words, because, as many witches know, there are traditions throughout time all over the Northern Hemisphere, Western and not Western, that gather herbs and all of the medicinal plant and plant parts that they are going to dry and utilize for the rest of the year because the sun is at its peak power. And so, in that, before we get to that, my brain's like, we're doing this. Nope, we're doing this. How do witches celebrate this stuff? Well, especially in the modern era, we light stuff on fire. Maypoles are also a big deal. And maypoles at Litha, or Midsummer, or summer solstice, are a bigger deal in the very most northern places in Europe, usually speaking. Though we are starting to see maypoles being utilized during midsummer celebrations around the world in modern paganism. It's becoming more and more of a practice. Obviously, given the name maypole, we generally associate with that practice, we generally associate that practice with Beltane, which happens May 1st. But it also takes place here. Very, very traditional. Holding rituals at noon. Along with the bonfires, this is that assertion of fire energy, solar energy. Holding a ritual at noon when the sun is completely above our head, high up, directly overhead. Potent stuff. Other things that we're doing traditionally around the planet and throughout time, getting naked. Going sky-clad or getting naked and running around in the woods, running around in the garden, absolutely. There is a real power that is implied or perceived in running naked, getting your naked body near your growing plants. And we see this in a lot of traditions going back very far into time. Gathering herbs, as I mentioned previously, also a big deal. Hand fasting, sex, competition, and union. These sort of all sit together. One of the most common holy day celebrations that we will see for festivals throughout the midsummer season, or the Litha season or Cancer season, are hand fastings or marriages or unions or partnerships being formed between goddesses and gods all over the planet. And many of them are symbolic. It's sort of a ceremonial union. Many of them are literal unions where sex is absolutely assumed to be happening between the gods and goddesses, or the various entities or energies or elements that we're talking about. And there also can be a spirit of competition within that. And in general, there is a spirit of competition sort of fomenting at this time of year. But competition and union, which implies something that comes together and comes apart and comes back together and comes apart, and you can take it from there. I'm sure you can figure it out. Other stuff that we see a lot of at this time of year, pranks being pulled, and silly stuff, tricks and jokes, and people pulling tricks and pranks on each other. Water fights, spiritual bathing, and we'll talk about that a little bit more throughout the class, but water element stuff, huge at this time of year. Fire element stuff, huge at this time of year. Looking for the flowering fern. This is definitely something that we see as a cute tradition, a euphemism for sex, where women would head in, or one type of person, one gender, heads into the forest and hides, and then other people come along later and look for them, and they are looking for the flowering fern. Ferns don't flower. Just, again, pretty sure you can figure this out for yourself. Other stuff that we're doing at this time is lots of stuff having to do with water. So floating wreaths on the water, floating candles on the water, floating paper boats on the water. Around the world, again, we're seeing lots of these traditions. So, thinking about all of that stuff, when we look around the planet, this is a very, 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 very short list, an extremely short list of some of the other names that we find in various pagan traditions. Summer solstice, of course. Oh, I don't know if you can hear the cheering in the background. People are cheering for the Olympics right now, which is pretty cool. We'll talk about that in just a second. One of the names for this holiday is summer solstice, of course, and this is the astronomical and meteorological name for this day, when the Northern Hemisphere experiences the longest day and the shortest night. And actually, that's not true, because for reasons only known to science, these are not actually the same day or the same night. You won't necessarily have the shortest day and the longest night happening at the same time. Science. It's amazing. But they're all happening basically around this time period. But these are also the days, the solstices, and we'll have another one at winter, when the sun rises at its most northerly point here for summer solstice 3 days in a row. And there are definitely some groups that get off on that 3 day in a row thing. That is like a big deal. I'm certain of it. I know I tell that joke every year, but I'm telling it again. Another name for this holiday is Midsummer, as I've said a few times, and that's because, yes, World Cup. Yes, absolutely World Cup. Because many pagans, ancient and modern, many animists, many heathens, think of this moment right now, the summer solstice, as marking the center of the summer season when we talk about meteorological determination or astronomical determination, we're saying that the season of summer basically starts now at June 20th. I think June 1st is also a marker, and I think July 1st is also a marker for the season of summer based on cultural movements and stuff like that. So, time. We talk about this a lot in these classes and on the podcast when I do the podcast, how malleable these systems are. It's like, man, whatever. But lots of traditions, past and present, tend to think of summer solstice as actually marking the middle of summer season. Having started, the summer season having actually started either at spring equinox or Beltane and running all the way through fall equinox or Samhain. There's another system that sees midsummer or Litha or summer solstice as the center of a 3-pack of holidays that are specifically Beltane, summer solstice, and Lunasa, which is August 1st, all being sort of the top of the hill, the top of the peak of the summer jam. Another name that we see here from the Druids is Albenhefen, and this means the light of summer or the light of the shore. And we get a little clue here in the light of the shore. One of the core images that we want to work with as we move through Litha, Cancer, summer solstice, midsummer, whatever we want to call it, is the union of the sun and the ocean, or the sun and a potent body of water. So we get a hint of that here in this name from the Druids. From our Polish, Ukrainian, and Russian friends and ancestors, we get the name Kupola Nok or Kupola Night. I know that there are a lot of other groups that utilize this name as well. This is a quintessential collection of midsummer or summer solstice celebration. You have young couples frolicking. You have flower exchanges, you have sacred bathing, gathering herbs, frolicking in the woods, bonfires and jumping over bonfires, and the overseeing of the marriage of two deities, Yarilo and Lada. Yarilo and Lada are both spring deities who we hang out with at the end of Imbolc and the beginning of spring in their child forms. And here at summer solstice, they've matured a bit, they're coming into their adulthood, and they are changing into their summer and vegetation versions at this time period. And so this festival celebrates their marriage, their sacred union, and the baby that they are going to produce, as well as a lot of these marriages that we'll talk about or suggest during this class, are connected to the harvest that we experience soon and all the way through Samhain here in the Northern Hemisphere. Another name for this holiday, Gathering Day, as I mentioned before, the Welsh refer to it as this, but lots of other groups now do as well. The practice of gathering up the medicinal herbs for winter. And some of the other holy days that we'll see at this time have names like the Great Mother from our British friends and ancestors, the Day of Ceridwen and her Cauldron, which is an English-Welsh pagan vibe, the Night of the Chalice from our Wiccan friends and ancestors, and the Day of Ain of Nachhain, which from our Irish friends and ancestors. And these are all hearkening to ocean goddess stuff. There's, again, lots of others that could be mentioned, and I will, but but this kind of brings in that oceanic water element. This is, of course, being Cancer season. We see that connection pretty straightforwardly. Cancer being the sign of motherhood, protection, care, and nurturing. Again, this idea of the goddess changing into the Great Mother, or they're going from their youthful experimental form into their more matured, oh, I need to take responsibility for something, I guess, form. And then some of our holy days during this season focus on the Holly King and their rising power. And so in Northern Europe, we have Green Man Day. In a lot of different Slavic countries, we have Green Week. And both of these ideas or festival complexes thread into the Feast of St. John the Baptist. And this is a big old fancy festival that's celebrated here at summer solstice. And this collectively celebrates the god energy as both the virile land and the sun at its peak strength. And we see that St. John the Baptist holiday show up under a bunch of different names in Latvia and Lithuania. It's Johnny or St. Joines. Latvia also will refer to this holiday as Rasos or Cupola, which is connecting us back to the Cupola night. Johnny Pev from Estonia. And then from our Scottish Gaelic friends, we have a name for this holiday, which is, God bless me, about to absolutely destroy the pronunciation of this word, or these two words, but it's Fíl Huithin. And this is the Scottish Gaelic name for St. John's Day, because Swithin means, or sounds like Swithin, which means panting or breathing hard. If you speak Gaelic and I have completely destroyed that interpretation, please let me know in the comments. I didn't mean to hurt you. But again, we don't want to think of the ocean entities and the solar entities as separate. We do want to be they are separate, but in this time period, we want to be thinking of the union between the sun and these bodies of water. Okay, so that is a little bit of information about what modern and ancient pagans, heathens, animists, witches are doing and have been doing. But let's expand our purview a bit. When we look out around the planet at the global themes that come up for us, we see cultures all over the Northern Hemisphere participating in rituals and festivals celebrating partnership, marriages, life, abundance, vitality, light, warmth, and more during this quarter holiday. Side note to the side note, witches and pagans who practice the Wheel of the Year in its modern form will refer to the solstices and the equinoxes as quarter days or quarter Sabbats, and the other four, Imbolc, Beltane, Lunasa, and Samhain, are the cross-quarter holidays or cross-quarter Sabbats. And so one of the things that we see during this time period is festivals throughout June and throughout July celebrating ocean goddesses, mother goddesses, and solar goddesses. In June into July, from our Roman friends and ancestors, we have Vestalia, which is a festival dedicated to Vesta, the goddess of the hearth. This would take place all month long, with ceremonies similar to winter solstice, where fires are put out and relit, and the hearth is cleaned and restocked. From our ancient Greek friends and ancestors, we have Scirophoria, which is a 3-day festival from ancient Greece overseeing the blessing and fertility of the fields of grain coming to harvest soon. We will see them depending on where we are on the planet now and in the ancient era, basically starting from the equator going up towards the North Pole. These harvests are going to come into fruition just after summer solstice going forward. It really does begin to kick off during this time period. In the ancient days, this festival would have involved Athena and her priestesses. The modern day equivalent is still celebrated 2,000 plus years later during the Turkish festival Galabayramı, where it's a huge cultural celebration that's just like a hell yeah turkey kind of day. And also, look at all of this grain that we're producing. Isn't this amazing? And more. As I mentioned previously, during this time, we also have the Feast of St. John the Baptist for our Catholic friends and ancestors all around the world, and lots of other people who are just embedded in Catholicism. This festival specifically didn't just recognize St. John the Baptist, but in my opinion, it recognized the relationship between the Holly King and the Oak King. when they placed this holiday dedicated to St. John on June 24th, specifically, it is aligned with the summer solstice, which is in opposition to the winter solstice, where we find Christ Mass at December 24th. John and Jesus kind of having a thing. I don't know if you're familiar, but they sort of do a little back and forth dancey dance. One mortal, one immortal. Who's that sound like? If we've been taking our classes and reading along, we may know that that harkens to a sign we are just about done with. Okay. What other holidays do we have at this time of year? A ton of them. But from our Indian friends and ancestors, we have Ratha Yatra, which is an amazing festival from India featuring massive chariots pulled through the streets. Jagannath is the deity that is celebrated, a particularly symmetrical form of Vishnu, along with his brother and sister. So, siblings overseeing that. Also during this time period, we have the marriage of Yaryalo and Lada, which is Kupalanak or Kupala night, as I mentioned before. And we also have Savitri Brata, the marriage of Orpheus and Eurydice from our Greek friends, Savitri Brata from our Hindu friends and ancestors, and dozens and dozens and dozens of other official marriages taking place between the eternal goddess or queen and this newly crowned god king overseeing this half of the year. And from our Gaelic friends and ancestors, we have Aunach Taltin. From our Greek friends and ancestors, we have Pan Athenia. And from our Roman friends and ancestors, we have the Games of Apollo. And from ancient Greece, as well as modern era, right now, in fact, the Olympics. Multitudes of week-long games and competitions begin now and run through the end of Lunasa. And so here is another place where we get that competitor spirit coming through in a purely platonic way. Competition through union and sex, but also competition through just pure platonic, like, sportsmanship. I am in a host city for the Olympics this year. As I said, we could hear people cheering just a few minutes ago. And that's super complicated because as a pagan, I absolutely love the chance to be in proximity to one of humanity's longest running global traditions. We are celebrating in very overt fashion the symbolism of my solar system. It's very cool to think about how these holy days that we observe and these holy festivals that we observe are crossroads in space-time. And as people are, parading through the streets, which has been absolutely amazing to see. It's amazing to see the cultural pride. It's amazing to see the blend of humanity enjoying themselves in the sun, enjoying themselves watching, people kick a ball and have a good time. That's incredible. And we get to share this moment in a very real way with people throughout millennia. Like these moments here are the same crossroads as moments from thousands of years ago when people were celebrating these same things. And especially so in the face of the wildly racist fascist crackdowns. It's phenomenal that anybody has come to our country to visit us at all. So thanks for that. I guess, be careful, stay hydrated, use some sunscreen. And also the Olympics in the modern era are problematic. Homeless camps are swept so that cities look nice. Our mayor has capitulated to the government and flooded our city with even more security cameras under the guise of national security and national incidents and all of that silly bullshit. FIFA probably corrupt to some extent, right? So here it is, right? I wonder if pagans in ancient times were cheering on the chariot races of their favorite athletes while bemoaning the corruption of the Roman Senate, So here we are, right? Sharing that moment with our ancient ancestors. But very cool. So there's just like a little sampling of the really cool ways throughout the world where these types of symbols are being celebrated and observed. So let us now get into a little bit of the science of what we are doing here. Let's come back to the heart of this holy day, which is the solstice. At its root, Litha is centered in celebrating summer solstice for those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere. The high point of the sun's journey across the sky. This is a photo that I found on the interwebs depicting the sun's path over the course of 6 months, taken by Regina Valkenburg using a pinhole camera at the Bayfordbury Observatory in England. So she created a pinhole camera, she locked it up somewhere and let it just run for 6 months. How cool is this image? And doesn't it look so similar to our symbol for Litha? Come on, what the hell? Now, I've added my own little graph at the bottom so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about when I talk about the movement of sunrises and sunsets. We see the array of sunrises on the left-hand side of this photograph and the sunsets where the sun ultimately ends up every day on the right-hand portion of the photo. Currently, for folks in the Northern Hemisphere, summer solstice falls somewhere between June 19th and the 21st. The movement of that is locked to our orbit around the sun, not numbers on a calendar, so those will change over time. During summer solstice, we also experience the longest days and the shortest nights of the year, those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere. After this point, the days grow steadily shorter as the sun heads south until we reach fall equinox, where we experience equal day and equal night, more or less. The days continue to grow shorter until we reach winter solstice. At this point, we see the longest nights and shortest days, and then the cycle starts all over again. The closer you are to the equator, the more difficult it is to perceive the change, but at the poles, it is a very different story where we have radically super duper long days, in fact, days so long that the sun never actually sets, and nights so long that the sun never actually rises. At winter solstice, the sun simply refuses to rise, and folks experience weeks of perpetual twilight and night. At summer solstice, the sun never sets, and people ride high on an invincible sun that shines for weeks and weeks. As we move through this year, the sun rises and sets, delineating day and night. When we trace the sun's pattern in the sky, it flows like a wave. The union of the sun and the ocean. The low ends are sunrise and sunset points. The arc in the center is the high noon on each day that this photo was taken. Look at how low the sun gets in winter solstice. Like, it's not even clearing some of the buildings or trees that are there in the foreground. The arc in the center at the very top, look at how high it gets in the sky for summer solstice. That alone tells you something about the experience that beings are having here on the planet in terms of their access to just literal sunlight. The actual angle of the sunlight is different. You can see in the photo that when the sun rises each morning, it also slowly moves north and south along the horizon. And that's all of those different starting points there, like on the center of the photograph to the middle of the photograph. On the left of the photograph, moving to the middle of the photograph. You can see in that photo that when the sun rises each morning, it also slowly moves north and south along the horizon. At the solstices, the sun rises and sets at its most northerly or southerly points on the eastern horizon approximately 3 days in a row, appearing to stand still for 3 days. And this is where we get the word solstice from stolstitium or stolstitium, a phrase that is a mix of Middle English and Old French and Latin, and it means loosely sun, sol, and to stand still, stitium. And as I mentioned before, there are a few religions that put quite a bit of emphasis on that 3 day thing. So it really must have been something that people were kind of freaked out about. So, why does this fluctuation in the sun's height and length of our day happen? Well, the planet's tilt is the reason for the season. Our planet naturally has a tilt of about 23 degrees. As Earth orbits the sun, light from the sun hits Earth at different angles. From Earth, it appears that the sun is waxing and waning in its pattern, but really it's us circling our local star. And so, who has been paying attention to this? Everyone. Everyone for a really long time. This zenith moment is a big deal for humans, and if megalithic sites around the world are any indication, humans have treated the solstices like a big deal for at least 12,000 years, and probably for much, 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 much longer than that. Humans have been marking these and other solar points of interest for thousands of years in timeless constructs like megalithic structures, medicine wheels, and sacred mounds, just to name a few. These structures often not only mark the solstices, but also the equinoxes, the rising of fixed stars, and some even have elements for marking points in the moon's cycle. Many sites have extraordinary features that showcase the movement of the sun and reveal just how intelligent, clever, talented, and determined our ancient scientist ancestors were. So, starting with one of the more recent ones, coming in at 900 CE, so only about 1100 years ago, we have Chaco Canyon here in the United States. A sun dagger shines through a crack in a rock, illuminating a carved spiral on a wall every solstice. A little further back in time, of course have one of the heavy hitters, Stonehenge, everybody's favorite, the fan favorite. Stonehenge from approximately 3000 before current era BCE. On summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, which is that rock that's standing off to the right in that picture there. Let's go back further in time. 7500 BCE, we have Hagarkim Temple in Malta. And this is a huge temple complex that has several chambers and walkways that align with the solstices and the equinoxes. Or excuse me, that's 3600 BCE. I lied. 7500 BCE, that's our old friend Nabta Playa, which we find in southern Egypt, towards the mouth of the Nile. This is a stone circle found in southern Egypt that marks the solstices, the equinoxes, and fixed stars, and currently reigning in at probably the oldest site that we have any reasonable amount of research on. We have Göbekli Tepe, but we also have Karahan Tepe and Katul Hayuk, all more or less in the same regions. This site is decorated with animals. This is also found in Turkey. Our old friends, Turkey. They're doing it out there in Turkey, guys. Come on, pay attention. Decorated with animals that match the zodiac, perhaps, right? We don't want to automatically assume and project our modern systems onto ancient stuff that we're finding. Could be the same, might not be the same. But also seems to have monuments that are in alignment with the solstice. But a group of megalithic sites that I think don't get enough attention are our medicine wheels across Canada and America, all across Turtle Island. And these shapes are powerful. Some of them obviously are pretty simple, but some of them are pretty expansive, and some of those look like that graphic that I made with the planets. Interesting. Um, as people have spent time studying various medicine wheels, these are some of the sites that we see where, because of the way that they were made, more granular calculations were possible. Most medicine wheels were made with stones that were easy to pick up and move. Some of them bigger than others, obviously not intended to be moved very often. Some of them relatively small and easily could be moved by a single person. And they were living calendars, is the gig. We see even in places like the Big Medicine Wheel in Wyoming, where colonization showed up and stopped their timekeeping. Like we can almost track it down to the week because of the lunar cycle. And that's why you see these with lots and lots of little dots, because all of those represent small stones. Again, sometimes they were pretty big. Sometimes some of these stones, it's different in different places. Some of the stones would be obviously permanent, but many of them were obviously small enough so that they could be picked up and moved, so that the movement of the planets, the movement of the constellations, the movements of the moon could be calculated in these calendars. Really, really incredible. Now, let's take a moment after looking at that to look at this. This is a very small collection of the way that the sun has been depicted throughout time and throughout a variety of different civilizations. The Egyptian symbol going back thousands of years, right? Folks say that, a lot of these symbols are generated somewhere in the 4000 BCE era, approximately 6,000 years ago. But there's also a lot of research coming through suggesting that some of those very earliest hieroglyphs that we think of from that era came from a previous era, which again, years old. What I love, one of the things I absolutely love about that is you absolutely see the curve of the sun in the sky in that serpent shape around the sun. I've been doing this for too long. All right, so now let's pop back over to here and take a moment to hang out with the constellations that we are traveling through at this time. We looked at our megalithic sites and our medicine wheels and our solar symbols, because they all are sort of helping each other, right? The megalithic sites and the medicine wheels are very much about calculating what can be seen in the sky at night. These constellations can't be seen in the sky at night. These are the constellations that we are traveling through. But the fixed stars that we work with in these constellations inform us through myth of a lot of the symbolism that we're working with. We're not going to get into that because this class would be 7 hours long. And my throat would probably give out. My voice would probably give out at some point. Maybe? I don't know. I am a yap master. But one of our biggest stars that we work with at this time of year is the fixed star Sirius. And the heliacal rising of this fixed star was a monumentally important event in ancient Egypt and lots of other communities. But Egypt would set their calendar by it. A heliacal rising or helical rising is when a star in the sky rises just before the sun. And you will see the star on the eastern horizon suffused in the glow of the sun that's about to come up. It's a very auspicious moment for folks that like to do magic or incorporate fixed stars into their astrology. Heliacal risings are a big deal. And so big that Egypt, at one point in the vastness of what we think of when we say the word Egypt, they set their calendars by the rising of the fixed star Sirius. Sirius is found in Canis Major, the dog constellation, who is nearby Cancer and Gemini here. And a couple of the other fixed stars that will actually rise during our time period are, or during this time period, are Castor, Pollux, and Procyon. And you might be thinking to yourself, but wait, Castor and Pollux, isn't that part of Gemini? Yes, because that's where the sun appears to actually be traveling in the sky. This is sidereal astrology slash astronomical calculating versus the Western tropical astrology that we use in the West, which is about 2,000 years behind, give or take. Because somebody decided that they wanted to try to break the wheel of the sky. But the wheel turns and the wheel turns. So it's only going to stay broken for so many thousands of years before we move on. Okay, so these signs and these constellations have a lot of good stuff for us. Highly recommend getting into the mythology behind these fixed stars to get a deeper understanding of this. We're going to get into a little bit of it. But first, here is your sky guide. Pause me, take a screenshot here. I'll do it. There we go. You can see a little better. Um, sorry, that water really hit. It totally distracted me. So, these are some of our cool astronomical events that we have to look forward to during Litha season this year, um, as well as um, July 6th. Well, this is listed on here. July 6th is aphelion. The aphelion is the point in our orbit around the sun when we are the furthest away from the light, and it often hits July 4th. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. This year it will be July 6th, and again, that's because it's about our degree in our orbit around the sun. It's not about numbers on a calendar. Totally arbitrary. Um, but from this point toward winter solstice, approximately, uh, we will get closer and closer to the sun in our orbit around the sun. During this time period, we also have the Boötes meteor showers. This is a meteor shower that is highly unpredictable. Some years it's super quiet, some years it's bangarang. Your best time to see this meteor shower, if it's going to do something, is usually on the solstice. So we have dark and increasingly brighter light happening around the solstice because it's a week or so after the new moon. So it will become increasingly more difficult to see our meteor showers. Meteor showers, side note, we see a lot of them during seasons when ancestor worship and ancestor festivals take precedent. And we definitely have ancestor elements in Cancer season and Litha season, absolutely. We also have the Alpha Capricornids meteor showers, and that's because Boötes and Pegasus and Capricorn are all at the top of our sky, which I'll show you here in just a second. What else is happening during this time period? Um, Anybody living north of 55 degrees latitude has an opportunity to experience noctilucent clouds. And those are clouds that you can see at night. They are lit up by the sun because of the angle of our planet and the angle of the sun and where the light is hitting versus where the clouds are in the atmosphere. It's a very cool phenomenon. It only happens during this time of year, and it only happens for folks that are closer to the top of the planet. Uh, as well, as I mentioned, what's going on in the sky actually at this time? Well, the Milky Way is overhead at this time of year. And so whenever we have our June new moon, we just had it, this is the very best time to try to get out of town, go find some dark skies or some areas that have very little light pollution, and go get a glimpse of our home, our larger neighborhood, the Milky Way. Very, very cool, as well as all of the constellations that are super close to the Milky Way. Okay, so now we are going to get into. Actually, I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a mo. Um, and give you a second to breathe, refocus, and recalibrate because we are now going to get into some heavier material. We're going to talk about the astrology and the symbolism that comes up with that. We're going to talk a bit about the actual astrology of this season, Litha 2026. We're going to talk about the tarot, and how all of this symbolism sort of coalesces. So give yourself a second, go pee. I'm gonna give us 30 seconds to get our shit together and come back. All right. All right, we're back. There we go. Okay. So that's our sky guide of various astronomy stuff that's happening, our meteor showers, our heliacal risings of various stars, our moons, all of that good stuff, and when the sun is entering what and doing what and what it's what. Okay. Dun 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 dun. Okay, let us now actually get into the. Oh wait, I wanted to show you this too. Nope. There we go. Dun 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 dun. Okay, that's all. Okay. If you haven't already, go get your natal chart. I should have said that when we were taking our break. Whoops. I'll figure this whole thing out eventually. It's only been 10 years of teaching these classes. Surely I'll lock in eventually. Okay. So grab your natal chart, take a look at where is Cancer, what house or houses in your natal chart connect to the sign of Cancer. This is where, and to a lesser extent, Capricorn, as we'll talk about in just a second, this is where every year you're going to feel a level of intensity, a deepening of focus, a more conscious awareness, whatever, right, of the general themes of this time of year, plus the general themes of the house or houses connected to Cancer in your chart. Come see me for a reading if you want to know more about that. Link in the bio, blah, blah, whatever. But I hate that shit, god damn it. But do pull out your natal chart or pull it up on another screen or whatever and take a look at it. Okay. So in Cancer season, we are hanging out with a sign that is a water sign, which means that there is a deepening emphasis on our emotional realms, our relationships, our partnerships, the way that we come into wet connectivity with people, previously informed by various topics earlier in the class. Um, it's the stuff that we might get real protective about to the point of being clingy, or real protective about to the point of being like overly cautious and like safety minded to the point of, sacrificing, I don't know, say civil rights perhaps in the pursuit of safety. Okay. Nationalism comes up for us during Cancer season. But water also calls, sorry, I was getting ahead of myself there. Water also calls in our intuitive work, our psychic realms, our spiritual realms. So, cardinal water sign, meaning that it wants to kick stuff off. It wants to start things. It wants to, take the recalibration of the mutable sign Gemini that is just passing, and say, like, okay, I've made some adjustments, and now let me head out in this new direction or with this new clarity of vision or whatever. This sign connects us to the tarot card, the Chariot, which we will talk about at length here in just a few minutes. And the types of themes that can come up for us in Cancer season: shyness, nurturing, being touchy, being clingy, being sensitive, overly sensitive, protective, family, home, tenaciousness, nostalgia, patriotism, and emotionalness, emotions, emotional connectivity, emotional issues. As well, because I only have so much space on this page here, as well, we want to think about things coming up from the past with the sign of Cancer, our memories of things being very influential, our emotions being influential over the ways that we do stuff, more so than whatever is normal for us, right? If you're thinking to yourself, like, I'm a highly unemotional person, you may be a little bit more so during this time of year, or at the very least, aware that you have emotions, which can be a massive affront for some people. I get it. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't do it. It's just what we do in this time of the wheel. So when the sun hits that solstice point, it's also time to step into our summertime energetic stride. It's time to grab the reins of the chariot and try running a few races. The wise and patient Oak King has been supplanted, as previously mentioned, by the young and potent, he's pretty potent, Holly King, who is eager to make a mark on the world before their time runs out. Our tender buds have gotten dusted, and it's time to start producing some fruits with all of this power flowing around us. Moving further into Litha, the energy of the season wants us to commit to some stuff. Cancer vibes want some emotional security after all of that sampling in Beltane. As we step into the season, we may want to make a family with all of these new people that we've met, or make a home, or make a nest. Cancer vibes encourage us to finally relax and slow down and enjoy life a little bit more, to float on the warm summer night air, conduct our business under the stars and by the light of the moon, letting the days stretch out like flax into gold. We sleep outside, we eat the fruits growing all around us, and time feels timeless. And what I've put here as our graph are the two parts of the zodiac that are very much lit up by Litha or summer solstice or midsummer season, Cancer season. At the very bottom of the chart, connected natively to the fourth house, but probably will be different in your chart, we see Cancer. And at the very top of the chart, we see natively connected to the 10th house, again, probably different in your chart, the sign of Capricorn. Remember, that whole top area across the chart those are the constellations that we can actually see right now. That whole stretch that's in there. And what I've pulled up for our chart that's actually in this graphic is the chart of the moment of the summer solstice, which my time is 1:24 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, June 21st, later in the day on June 21st for everybody else around the planet. Just about later in the day for everybody else around the planet. It's easy at this time of year to forget the hardships and the rigorous life choices that we faced at Yule. Yule, of course, connected to Capricorn, way up there at the top of the chart. And for a while, maybe we should forget those hardships and rigorous life choices. Shifting into a nurturing of what we have planted in spring is abundantly important now. Doting on and getting emotional about the tender shoots that could only survive in the bright half of the year is vital because we know the whole life cycle. Across the wheel sits the crone, silently watching from an icy hollow in a dead tree. But today, that tree is alive and budding with fruit that we will soon eat. Rejoice and witness the miracle of your life and death and rebirth on Mother Earth. Is it all wine and roses for our astrology this Litha? No. We have a Mercury retrograde. See, you thought things were going to be cute, and I know. Absolutely not. Um, first off, our astrology for this season starts off with a Mercury retrograde at 26 degrees of Cancer, and that kicks off a week after summer solstice. I have a big hour-long podcast up on my Patreon with notes and key dates and descriptions for the 12 houses, new moon bath ritual, and a bunch of other stuff. Now that I think about it, there's a lot of stuff in those notes for this upcoming Mercury retrograde that's going to be in Cancer. And then this is immediately followed by Mars conjunct Uranus squaring the nodes. Lots of opportunity for arguments and people popping off. This retrograde in Cancer connects to other Mercury retrogrades in all of our water signs this year and in next year. So I'm encouraging people to just slow down and refocus on relationships and who helps you create safety. And like I said, there's more on Patreon if you want to know more about this upcoming thing. Also, I put up some memes on Instagram for free, so you can have that. Here, though, is the main work for us. We will have our full moon in Capricorn at 8 degrees on June 29th. And then July 14th, we will have a super new moon at 21 degrees of Cancer. This full moon with Capricorn will be the honeymoon. The first full moon after summer solstice every year is called the honeymoon, regardless of whether it happens in June or July. And during this Capricorn full moon, we want to take some time to acknowledge and honor our blood ancestors, as well as adopted family ancestors, as well as cultural ancestors, mentors, who have passed on, who have been deeply involved in our lives and helped get us, perhaps helped parent us in a fashion, to get us to where we are now in our lives. And then on the new moon in Cancer, we want to take a moment to examine our relationships, especially those where a lot of nurturing is involved. We want to connect more with people and ideas and genders that share a sameness with us or that make us feel safe. Meditating on a parent, big asterisk there, right? Of like, who gets to qualify as a parent for you? You decide that. Who is the same gender, whatever that means for you. And how are you similar and how are you different? How did you take what they gave you and grow from that place? How much have they influenced you? This might be difficult work. Who doesn't have baggage with their parents? Not me. I got plenty. So, take what feels right and healthy for you here. Leave what doesn't. You got free will, witch, and I hope you exercise it. So, and again, this work may be difficult and happy or difficult and not happy, right? Or, this might be a moment of like, wow, I haven't thought about this in a long time. Let me check in on this a little bit and see how I'm doing. Okay. So, what do I have next? Oh, that. We're not ready for that. Okay. I'm going to go back to this. So, A little bit more on our astrology. I started to talk about this Mercury retrograde that we have going on, and our full moons and our new moons to help us with this. But generally speaking, the as I said before, the astrology of Litha season 2026 is pretty spicy. We've got this Mercury retrograde. We've got Mars conjunct Uranus square the nodes. 2 weeks later, we have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all making aspects to each other at 4 degrees of Aquarius, Aries, and Gemini. Very potent stuff. People with any placements at 4 degrees of Leo, 4 degrees of Sagittarius, or 4 degrees of Libra, your mileage may vary. Like, take precautions. Just go easy on yourself. Be chill. a little spicy. What else happens astrologically during this season? Just after the sun moves into Leo, so about a month from now, Mercury will station direct in Cancer, and the nodes shift backwards into their new signs, Aquarius and Leo. So the hits keep rolling as we head into Lunasa season and Lammas and Leo season. Our south node is going to come back into Leo. Jupiter's also going to head into Leo. It's action-packed, people. Collectively, this is an astro season full of intensity. It's charged with very polarizing energy that can stir up old memories from childhood. It can also stir up threats, real or imagined, to our sense of security. Mileage may vary, kids, so watch out. My best advice is don't let old emotions, don't let nostalgia cloud your mind this season. Also, goddess bless, don't let paranoia cloud your mind this season. Again, there is a quiet, not so quiet, heavy emphasis on security and safety, and this is a season, and I don't want to get too hard into the Mercury retrograde in Cancer piece of this, but it's important for us in this Litha 2026. This is a real opportunity for you to go back and think about the compromises that you have made for a sense of security or a sense of well-being or a sense of safety that were, let's be honest, probably false, probably not actually safe, probably didn't work. And where are those choices being made for you? We got security cameras up all over the damn country right now. It's wild. It's a wild time. It's a wild time. That's just one little crumble. That's one little crumble of what we're talking about. I already mentioned it, but this super new moon in Cancer may be just the reprieve that we all need to go within, connect with the people and the ideals that we cherish the most, and come back into alignment with our core values if we find the pressures of the modern world have caused us to drift off course. All right. So now we're going to get into some tarot. There we go. I highly recommend taking a moment and pulling some cards out of your deck. You might pull out just the Magician, the Lovers, the Chariot, and the High Priestess, but you could also pull out Strength and the Sun if you wanted to. You could also pull out the 2, 3, and 4 of Cups. Okay. So as we move from Gemini into Cancer, and we move from spring's experimentation into summer's commitment, we work with 4 different cards that inform and illuminate our various forms of self. We start by witnessing in the Magician and the Lovers the influence of intuition and inner will on our perceptions. But we can fall into the ego trap of assuming All that information is temporal and mutable. Side note to the side note, I just taught a 2 hour class on Mercury, Mercury's relationship to these other cards, and as well the Empress and the Hierophant, which cover Taurus season. This is Mercury through the lens of the Wheel of the Year, and through the lens of Gemini and Beltane. That is available on Patreon. The recording and all the materials with that, you can look that up. Just type in The Magician. However, as we open ourselves up to the process of bringing our own voice down and listening to what is left, which is partially a reflection of the cosmos and partially the voice of our shared experience, we can be overwhelmed with feelings of insignificance as well as the general suffering in the world. We struggle to make sense of the chaos of existence and our place in it. We are in what might be something like the alchemist's alembic, where the raw material of the universe is rapidly heated and cooled, and it goes up and down and up again. Kind of like the sun in the sky, especially when we think of that wave and that arc and that shape. Interesting. So too, us, as by this point in our wheel journey, we may find ourselves far from home, figuratively or literally. As we settle our souls into the chariot of the body, our spirit races about on the physical plane, getting caught up in all sorts of dramas and competitions and entanglements. If we grip onto these stories and dramas too tightly, we get carried away by them. We identify with the moment too closely. We conflate the magician with the magic. This is where the high priestess steps in to cool us with the waters of wisdom and silence. But the high priestess also seems to keep her secrets on the true meaning of our life and these various events. What aren't they telling us? When we learn to be a temple to spirit and allow these forces to flow through us unimpeded, we become a conduit for our unique expression of source. And that expression comes through uninterrupted, raw, authentic, and certain of its purpose. But how do we do that? We find the people and the places where we feel seen, where we are treated with respect as equals, where we sense familiarity and comfort. This balance and equilibrium heals something in us we might not even know is hurting. And that, in turn, heals the whole community, binding it together in strength and love. Another way we become a conduit for source is through refusing to believe that life needs to be more than exactly what it is. We stand in the never-ending sunshine. We witness the bounty of the earth around us. We marvel at the ability of life to create more life forever and ever. We are the gate that source passes through when it materializes. When we quiet the mind and open our hearts, witnessing the bounty of life and the mysteries of the cosmos, we come into the place where the universe is presenting us exactly what we need. And that is because we are in tune with exactly what the cosmos needs. Not everything in this work will sit comfortably, and that is also important information. What happens when we manifest our desires? When we get what we said we actually wanted? We find out if we actually want it. And sometimes the answer is no, thank you. Sometimes the results are underwhelming given the effort we've put in. Sometimes the moment calls for us to be gracious even if we've seen the trick before. Sometimes the work is being able to sit with temporary disappointment in pursuit of long-term fulfillment. But we will only learn these valuable lessons by descending down into the physical plane and living a life with all the highs and lows of that experience. And I wanted to include this lineup that includes also Leo and the Sun, and just meditate on this for a moment. This deck is the Builders of the Adetum. When you buy this deck, it is black and white, and you paint the cards yourself to develop an intimate relationship with the symbolism on each card. Only the major arcana are illustrated, the minor arcana are just pips. One of the things that we worked on in the Magician class, and we'll also work on it in the Chariot class that's coming up July 1st, was looking at the symbolism families together. And we hung out with the Empress, the Hierophant, the Lover's card, and the Magician first. And then we moved into hanging out with the Lovers, the Magician, the High Priestess, and the Chariot. And in this 4-pack, you see, here, I'll do this. In this 4-pack, you see the color move from one element to the next. In the Magician, there's almost no blue at all. Blue connecting us to our emotional realms, our spirit realms, our psychic realms, our intuitive realms, relating realms. There's almost none of that in the Magician. The Magician is solo dolo. They're out there doing their own thing, and they're focused on their work, and that's what's what. The only blue that might be perceived in that card is the blue-gray Ouroboros serpent that they have as a belt. In the next card, in the Lover's card, we have this brilliant orange or orange-yellow sun in the sky. The body of this angelic being is bright yellow, and the sky below is blue. So there's orange and red and yellow up above, and blue down below. When we move to the Chariot card, we start to see those colors switch places. We have blue and yellow up above, and we have blue and yellow down below, with the yellow wheels of the Chariot and the blue water that's in the background. Yellow, of course, being our mind, our intellect, our ego, our sense of identity, also kind of wrapped up in that orange and red in there as well. And then finally, we move to the High Priestess. The black and white and black Sphinx have now become these separated energies holding up the tapestry above or behind the High Priestess, similar to the pillars holding up the tapestry over the charioteer's head in the Chariot card. Similar but not the same, but similar. The color blue has really taken over in the High Priestess card. It's all emotion, it's all feeling, it's all vibes. It's all memories, it's all of that good stuff. And where do we find yellow? Right at the very, very bottom of the card. Yellow is the floor. Everything else has been taken over by blue, the border, the background, the sky in the background, the water in the background, and of course the dark blue robes of the High Priestess, with their water sluicing off, interestingly, in the same direction that the Magician is pointing in as well. And something that we talk about a lot in these classes is these little hand gestures and these pieces of symbolism. The moons that are on the shoulders of the charioteer rise up to either side of the head of the High Priestess and become their crown or helmet or headdress. And this is in the same place as the infinity symbol that is over the Magician. But then let's bring in Leo and the sun. So you see the color story again moving through. In the Lover's card, you have lots of colors showing up here: dark blue, light blue, red, orange, yellow, purple, green, and flesh tone, right? There's two humans there. In the sun card at the opposite end, we see all of those same colors, but organized in a very different way, in a very orderly way. The sun in the Lover's card is so big that we can't even see the entire thing. In other words, it represents energy and elements that are difficult to conceptualize and difficult to work with. But by the time we have begun to work with them as the sun here in summer season, things start to make more sense. This can be interpreted lots of different ways. But the sense of self and the sense of purpose that we have during Gemini season, aka Beltane, the end of Beltane, may seem too big to get a handle on, or I can't see the entire thing. I don't know exactly what all of the parts are. Our sense of purpose by the time we hit Leo and the heart of summer has become something that is a bit more wrangleable. We can see the whole project now. We can get what it is that we're meant to be working on. Note also the yellow and color spectrum of the Mercury, the Magician card, compared to the Strength card. In both, blue has been completely taken out, just about. We have both of these figures wearing white or colorless robes, vestments, and then the Magician is wearing their brilliant red crimson robe or vest, the same color as the wings in the Lover's card. It's almost as if the wings have come down to become our vestments in the Magician card. That red is then translated to the pomegranates behind the High Priestess. It's nearly gone in the Chariot card. It's just referenced in the very center of the card as the Lingam Yoni, the union of opposite forces, similar to the black-white and white-black sphinxes, the union of opposing forces. But when we get to the Strength card, we again see that there's no blue there. It's this bright yellow background, just like the Magician. This person is dressed in white, just like the Magician. The red that the Magician is wearing maybe now is connected to this burnt-ish, reddish, brownish color of the lion. There's something interesting in that suggestion, right? This thing that I put on before, this artifice, this costume that I was wearing before, I'm now struggling with it. I'm now wrestling with it to get to my more authentic self, a more authentic expression of myself. The arbor of roses growing at the top of the Magician card now has come down around the crown of the person in Strength, as well as around their waist and through the mane of the lion. So whatever that passion is that was above the Magician, right? This passion that they were growing and building this very gentle trellis to sort of get it up and off the ground. Well, now it's starting to take on a life of its own by the time we get to Leo. And then, this again, the Sun card being a very interesting reinterpretation of the symbolism that we see in the Lover's card. So there's a lot of stuff here for us to work with in terms of managing ourselves, handling ourselves, getting a grip on what it is to authentically express ourselves in the universe without getting carried away by our various exploits and adventures and entanglements that we've discussed. But also being able to make the best of these things. Okay, so we're nearly done. I raced through. I'm like looking at the time. I'm very surprised how early I'm going. I'm like, what did I forget? I forgot something. I know one of the things that I did forget already is about the gate of man versus the gate of God. So, briefly, we'll pop back into the astrology astronomy section because, look, I'm a professional. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I know this is all intentional. Check it out. It's trippy. Woo! Okay. Given all of that stuff that we just talked about, with bringing through the authentic expression, taking claim, taking commitment and responsibility for the stuff that we have started in Beltane season and in spring, Ostara and Beltane, and now we're gripping onto it and taking it a little more seriously here. One of the things that we didn't talk about before is the gate of man. So in the constellation of Cancer is this area. It's like a little box in the center. I remember taking notes on this. What did I do with those notes? Now I'm gonna go crazy going back through my notes. Like, where is it? I know it's here. Damn it! What? All right, whatever. It doesn't matter. Um, in this, we have this box that's in the center. Inside of this box, obviously it's not really a box. It just looks like four stars that make a square from where we are on Earth looking out into the vastness of space. This little area of Cancer is referred to as the beehive or the manger, and it is thought of as the place where life is born. The Chaldeans referred to this stretch of sky that sort of covers this avenue of Cancer and beyond as the gate of man. And they very much saw it as the place where souls descended down onto the physical plane. See how all this stuff lines up? Look at all of this stuff that we're doing in this time period. We're calling it in. We're bringing in the thing that's going to happen here in the world. Again, coming down into the chariot and riding about on the material plane. And on either side, we have the two stars, Aesolus, that's Aesolus Borealis and Aesolus Australis, which just means upper and lower. These are depicted as two donkeys, or two asses. And interestingly, Gemini over here often are depicted as dual horse riders, a mortal and an immortal horse rider. When we're looking at the sign of Cancer, we're seeing a crab ultimately pinching. And one of the interesting things that I always connect here with that mortal immortal thing with Gemini is how many crabs have one claw that's super strong and can last through many, many battles, and another claw that's often very small and much weaker, and they will lose this claw and regrow it over and over and over again. Now, crabs and lots of shellfish and crustaceans molt, and they do let go of their shell entirely and grow new ones. But that whole being able to grow claws, again, I've been doing this for too long, but that's one of the trippy things here. There are many traditions, especially in the Yoruba tradition, where twins oversee the birth of, or they are born together to oversee and protect a third entity, a goddess, a god, what have you. And potentially we see this relationship here between Gemini and Cancer. But ultimately, we can also take the metaphor of, one, Gemini represents various parts of ourselves, the immortal and mortal parts of ourselves, or the thing in us that will last all of our lifetime, plus the thing in us that's going to change and be a million different people and try on a million different personalities, which is part of what we're supposed to do in this lifetime. And collectively, they kind of stand like pillars, right? We can even see that in the Gemini sign. It's similar to pillars. Holding open this gate, guiding or guarding this gate, like the two donkeys, potentially. And in this place, the Chaldeans saw this as a literal gateway that opened up where souls would come in to be manifest on the physical plane. And cool, trippily enough, the opposing sign, Capricorn, which we talked about a little bit ago, was thought of as the gate of God. And this is where souls would collect. And on a particular day of the year, it was thought that the gate would open up and the souls would leave this plane and go off to whatever their afterlife was going to be, go back to source, I don't know, a day at the water park, what have you. And collectively, this runs us along this pillar that's through the through line of, here we go, this. Down at the bottom, the gate of man, where stuff is emptying out to come here and manifest on the physical plane. Up here in Capricorn, the gate of God that opens up to shoot souls out like a water pick. Once they're done and they have hit their expiration point and they are leaving out the top of the chart, where of course is also the Milky Way, right? That's where the Milky Way is running approximately. The Milky Way technically now, as we see it, is between Sagittarius and Scorpio, but that's a story for another time. But these are these gates, and there's our blue, right? There's our yellow. Not a mistake. Okay. So, now last but definitely not least, our ritual forms. If you are a pagan, a heathen, an animist, a freak, a free thinking person, and you want to get up to some old timey religion, I've got some suggestions for you, buddy. Obviously, building an altar, especially if you can build your altar outside in any way, shape, or form, obviously, and I know that you already know this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Be respectful of your environments. Don't trample native wildlife or vegetation. Leave no trace, right? If you're leaving things, maybe make sure that they're biodegradable, but do you really need to leave anything? If you feel moved to leave something in nature as an offering, leave your prayers, leave a song, do a dance, draw a design in the dirt. The outside has everything it needs, including a shitload of microplastics and trash from us. It doesn't need more stuff from us. Even if it's biodegradable, it doesn't need any more stuff from us. But if you have access to an outdoor space like a backyard or, a communal area that you can build an altar outside, this is a fantastic time for doing that. And again, clean up after yourself when we're all done. This is a great season for honoring ancestors and places from your past, especially during that Mercury retrograde during Cancer. This is going to be a very potent time for going back to places where you used to live, whether that's cities or literal buildings. Fire divination is a very common tradition at Litha. It's really normal for witches to throw stuff into fires and then fish it out the next day and look at it, ponder it. They're looking for various things. There's lots of different traditions with that. So they might be looking for markings. They might be looking to see, did it disappear or is it still there? Or what are the char marks look on it? All of that stuff. That's all various forms of divination. But bonfire divination is also really common. And in areas where lots of bonfires are lit, looking out across the land and counting the number of bonfires, or sort of letting your eyes drift over the bonfires across the land and seeing what shapes and symbols you see, all of that, as well as obviously fire scrying at the bonfire itself. Protection rituals. I don't know why I didn't put this on here. I think I put it on the traditions. Protection rituals and spells also very, very appropriate at Litha. First off, we will see protection rituals and spellcraft at, I think, all of the solar holidays, the equinoxes and the solstice, because we are shifting into the new season, we're shifting into the new solar cycle or the new portion of the solar cycle. And so there's this sense of like, we're in a new thing. We need to reseal stuff. We need to reward our territory and reinforce the protection rituals that we have. So, a fantastic time to do it regardless, but also definitely connected with Litha and summer solstice because of all that stuff I was saying before about how we are taking responsibility for our duties, our obligations around whatever the projects are that we're going to see to fruition. And so we're creating some protection around that. That's our crab energy there for us too. Other stuff that we might do during this time period: walking a labyrinth, highly potent. Playing in the garden, as I was mentioning previously, sex and sensuality, whatever those words mean for you, very, very potent near the vegetation, near the plants, all of that good stuff. So group up the house plants and get frisky on the living room floor, or whatever you got to do. It's good for everybody. Staying up all night, holding our rituals at noon. This kind of honors that thing of like, night is so short, the day is so long that we can stay up all night, boom, boom, have our rituals at noon, da da da. Paper boats, sacred bathing, and any of those rituals that are bringing us back to water and water sources, honoring the water sources as well as washing ourselves in those sacred waters. All really potent stuff for us here. And then, last but not least, just about, when you are making altars, but also you could like use these, you could put these on clothing, you could make jewelry with these symbols. The sun, fire and bonfires, pairs of things, which we see with the emphasis of Gemini. We see the emphasis in the two pillars in the high priestess, the pair of sphinxes in the chariot card, the pair of crab claws, as well as all of our pairings and partnerships and unions and handfastings and marriages that we're seeing around the planet and throughout time. So pairs of things, very potent on our altars. Cauldrons filled with water, sundials, henges, and burning wheels. Oh yeah, one of my favorite traditions that we see around the planet is people taking wheels and covering them with pitch or tar and lighting them on fire and rolling them down the steepest hill in their nearby area, which here in Seattle, I believe is Roy Street. So I'm hoping that the good people of Madison Valley are ready for some old time religion because we're coming. I've got instructions for making a sundial as well as making drying racks for herbs in the Litha handbook that's in production, but it's coming soon, I swear to God. And last but not least, here we go, our meditations. Think of all the energy that you radiate. How do you share your gifts? We all have the capacity to nurture. What does nurturing look like for you? Explore the wild expanse of reality and your own spirit. What will help you progress on this path? I want to thank you so much for being here. This basically wraps up our Litha 2026 class. I'm going to hang out for a few minutes to answer any questions that anybody might have. Go ahead and throw them in the chat. And before we end, I need to give a massive motherfucking shout out to the biggest freaks of all time. All my patrons. These are the people. I don't know what's up. You all support me. You support this work. You don't even know. You don't even know. Um, these are the folks carrying the light right now. If this class did something for you, join my Patreon. There is a metric shit ton of materials at the various levels. The various followers can attest. Um, and you can also work with me. I do tarot readings, astrology readings. I consult on mentorships, magical workings, pagan spirituality. We do. I'm doing tarot mentorships soon again. TM soon. um, we've got Patreon. We've got live classes here on YouTube irregularly. Spinning the Wheel podcast. Tons of back issues of that. And maybe more coming. Who knows? I have an irregular newsletter that you can sign up for on my website, as well as my blog on my website. You can follow me for free now on Patreon. You can follow me here on YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky, Megan Angus Witch, just about everywhere. And, you know, I'm menacing the internet. What can I say? I'm out there doing weird shit. um, Upcoming classes, as I mentioned before, I'm just flicking through slides at this point. I've got the Chariot class on July 1st. That is going to be free to attend for anybody subscribed on Patreon at the Venus level and higher. The recording of the class and whatever materials come out of that class will be available for download for everybody subscribed at the Sun level and higher on Patreon. And also, I will have it as a standalone class that you can buy a ticket for. Also, ticket available on my website and through Patreon. You can buy the recording after the class as well if you don't make it to the class. That's July 1st. Our next Sabbat class will be for Lammas or Lunasa, and that's going to be way out at the end of July. And I will be hosting some summer tarot classes, TBD. Promise, I swear to God, that's actually coming. And that's it. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm assuming that I've talked you all to death. That no one's left, and I don't blame you. But thank you for attending. Thanks for being here, and whatever you take away from this class, I hope that what you really take away from this class is a commitment to yourself, a commitment to your most authentic expression in this lifetime, and a commitment to the people, the places, the ancestors, and the lands that we have lost and continue to lose, and a commitment to your best self to be that thing. In the immortal words of the great philosopher, Dr. Frankenfurter, don't dream it, be it. Happy Litha, happy summer solstice, happy midsummer, my pagans, my witches, my heathens. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great night.